Good evening. Time is 7 o'clock, and we're going to begin the Raytown Board of Aldermen meeting, June 3rd, 2014. The Royals are not in first place at this current time. This is regular session number 28. We're going to start off the opening session tonight with Mr. Larry Cleveland with the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Would you pray with me? Gracious Creator God, we've assembled this evening to create a common ground, a meeting place in which to conduct the business of the city of Raytown. To this end, we raise our voices in supplication, asking your blessing of wisdom and insight upon the government of this city and its elected officials. We come asking that these same officials might discuss the agenda before them in civility, mutual respect, and with the common goal being the good of the citizens of this fair city. May that goal be foremost in their hearts and minds as they discuss and deliberate the issues before them. As this meeting is about to begin, we come in thanksgiving for our freedoms and our citizenship in this beautiful community. We thank you for the relationships that we treasure with family, friends, and neighbors. May you truly bless both this assembly and this community. We pray humbly and sincerely. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Alderman Mock.
Here.
Alderman Josh Green.
Here.
Alderman Lightfoot.
Here.
Alderman Nelson.
Here.
Alderman Jason Green.
Here.
Alderman Van Buskirk.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Here.
Alderman Azier.
Here.
Alderman Emerson.
Here.
Alderman Ertz.
Here.
We have a quorum. Excellent. This time I'm going to ask the Chief of Police, Jim Lynch, to come forward to make a presentation to some very important people in our community.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. I'm going to get all the CERT members up here before I start talking. And the Mayor, if he'd come down and join me to pass out certificates. Yeah.
I know. It's okay.
We got everybody? Stay here. I'm going to have you help me pass those. Okay. The Raytown Police Department realized how important it is to get citizens involved in the event that a disaster would strike our community. It is critical for citizens to prepare to take care of themselves, their neighbors, and their community. The Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, training is a national program to train citizens to help fill the gap between disaster and emergency and arrival of professional services. During CERT training, volunteers learn to handle small fires, turn off utilities, give basic first aid, perform light search and rescue, and collect information to provide to arriving first responders. Marlon Fleming was instrumental in getting this training off the ground, along with the CERT instructors, Paul and Joe Watts, to my right. The Raytown Fire Department and the Raytown Emergency Medical Services instructed in fire and medical training to our volunteers. The Lee Summit Bomb Squad also instructed the class on terrorism and disaster psychology. The CERT training was Monday and Wednesday through the month of May, and on May 31st, the practical exercise was at REAP. volunteers were able to use what they learned in the classroom and applied during practical exercise. It's my pleasure to award the following people with a certificate of completion for CERT training. And I practiced the names today, so hopefully I'll get everybody. There was one unique name, and I told Natalia, that's you, right? Okay, that's pretty unique. Edward Bragg. You want to shake hands with me? Yeah.
One hand.
Thank you. Gordon Casey.
There you go.
There you
Front
go.
of the fan club. Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations. Tanya Dearborn.
Good job. Thank you. Chief and Mayor.
Congratulations. Julian Dresser.
Another fan club.
Congratulations. Marilyn Fleming.
There you go.
Justin Gann. Not here? Okay. David Hartman.
Fan club continues. Thank you, Dave. Nice job.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Pam Hinton.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Philip Holloman. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Natalia Martinoli. Right? I practiced it. Congratulations. Beth Ann Rhodes.
There we go. Congratulations. It's your fan club here.
William Harold Reichert. Close.
It's growing in applause. Good job.
Congratulations. Captain Michelle Rogers. Kathy Schutte. Congratulations. Congratulations. Deborah Summers.
Thank you.
Vicki Turnbow.
The instructors aren't really sure about this.
Jeremy Widner. Is that right? Timothy Wright. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir. Congratulations.
Larry Williams. And Michelle Williams. Thank you. I just want to, again, thank everybody for participating in this. It took a lot of time and effort by everyone. We hopefully will have many more and get more people trained, but I appreciate your time and effort, and know it's a lot of work, and what I heard you had some fun too. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And Chief, thank you for your putting that forward and bringing it to the community. Very nice job. Okay, with that, we've got some public comments. I'm going to call upon David Hartman. David, if you want to address the board. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. In addition to being a CERT member, I'm also an employee of the city of Raytown. I work in public works, and I wanted to begin to bring to your attention, last year we received no raises. and in Public Works. And I would like to ask you to do your best to remedy that situation this year. We took courses on behalf of the city that made us more valuable. In other years, individuals who received certificates in such things as IMSA signs and signals and IMSA work zones received wage compensation for that. And we didn't get that this year. I personally used information that I had gained at other places of employment to save the city $3,000 by properly disposing of a number of chemicals, and received no compensation, not much of a thank you for that work on the city's behalf. And I've seen that same thing happen to other people in the Public Works Department, people who are highly trained and do very good work, and passed over for any kind of monetary compensation whatsoever. I understand that you have your own constraints to deal with, and yet you're going to lose some pretty good people if the situation doesn't change in the coming year. So thank you very much. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mary Jane Van Buskirk. The only sound I'm hearing up here, Mary Jane, is Bill being concerned.
My name is Mary Jane Van Buskirk. I live at 7812 Woodson Road, Raytown, Missouri. I'm here tonight as a private taxpayer. I'm not here as an alderman's wife. I'm here as a private citizen, and I have concerns. I heard on the radio the other day that a lot of young married couples are being forced out of the home buying market because they can't afford the new homes and what they want for them. By dingo, Raytown's got an opportunity here. Let's go for it, guys. We got a lot of good homes in Raytown that are for sale. Why don't we market Raytown? Why don't we get out there and say, hey, you want a community to move to that's affordable? Give us a try. Come look. But along with that, we got some problems. Number one, when we moved out here in 1972, the schools were tops. They're not that way anymore, but that's another issue for another time. We've got some problems with property owners not cleaning up their property. Codes needs to get on it. We have a great opportunity, guys, and we need to capitalize on it. I can't understand what we're waiting for. Honestly, I can't. And, you know, I think it's time that we all start working together. Maybe some of you aldermen need to start driving through your wards and take a look and see what kind of code violations you got. Call them in. Let's get it fixed. Let's get on this. Let's make Raytown the clean little city that it used to be. We can do it if we want to, but we've all got to work together. I understand that Codes does sweeps of the city every now and then to pick up the signs. Well, it's been quite a while since they swept my end of town, let me tell you. I'm not here to get on anybody's back. I'm here to say, let's work together. Let's bring it back. That's what we all want. What are we waiting for? I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I've got a house next door to me that's vacant. It was a foreclosure. For a while, I was mowing the front yard, my neighbor was mowing the backyard, so we could keep it looking good. All of a sudden, I thought, what am I doing this for? Nobody else cares, why should I? Well, yeah, there are other people in the town that care, but we all need to work together to get it done. And that starts up here at City Hall with some code enforcement. Come on, guys, let's get it going. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Hartwell. Welcome, Sandy.
I'm Sandy Hartwell, 10901 East 82nd Street, Raytown. I called Mary Jane and Bill for some help on a property that I asked for help on last year. The neighbors have called City Hall. Some of the things that were said to the neighbors just totally amazed me, that would come out of a city employee's mouth. And what was said was, if you want that taken care of, you have to talk to your alderman. We can't do it. Well, if they can't do it, who the can? I mean, this is just ridiculous. Every year, this particular property has been going on and on. It's bank-owned. It's vacant. Last year, they had a tree fall in the backyard, broke out the back end of the house, and it just sat there for months and months and months and months and months and months. And that's just one thing. If you look across the street, there's a house that has paint that peels up all over it. There is another rental house, and I believe that one is rental. I think most everything on that block is rental except for a couple. But we have to get the landlords to start taking care of their property. If you want the city to grow, we have to control the codes problem in this city. And all of you know that. And you don't tell a citizen who calls in and asks for help that we can't do anything. You have to do something. And I give Bill and Pat Ertz and Steve Mock a lot of applause because they do go around the city. But this particular neighborhood, there's a couple of things up on hedges, hedges that need to be taken care of. I could take any one of you, and I'm sure Mary Jane or any one of those three men could do the same thing. We have to do this if we want our city to turn around. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Jane, for the applause. Paul Davidson, please.
My name is Paul Davidson, 9505 East 65th Terrace. First, I sincerely appreciate the comments before me. Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, thank you for your time today. For several years, the lack of participation in the Household Hazardous Waste Program with the Mid-America Regional Council has been very discouraging. This community now seems to tell the area we are a green and earth-friendly city when a much-deserved farmers market is opening up downtown. And a partnership between Raytown Police Department and Public Water Supply No. 2 has taken initiative to have collection events and establish a drop box for prescription drugs. And Public Works is using propane. Why does the city continue to decide that HHW is not a necessary issue to address for Raytown residents? I really can't appreciate the fact in formulating the city budget, other crucial priorities take precedence. However, the cost of $1.04 per resident for a city our size does not make this a viable expense, is not an excuse not to participate, and has little weight in making the decision whether or not to pay the cost to put the program in place. I am not saying our elected officials and city personnel do not care, but disposal and collection of hazardous waste is a city service we deserve. In regards to the recycling center as well as HHW, I'm confident waste management at a city level isn't questioned enough and is under-tested. Hazardous materials are essential to our health and creature comforts in life, but we all take for granted at some point as these things become hazards when improperly stored or disposed and pose dangers to environmental and human health, and in extreme cases, public safety. The following are some brief facts and notes about hazardous waste. According to the 2013 third quarter Missouri Hazardous Waste Management Commission report, Missouri recycled 43.5% of 328,500 tons managed in 2011. The same report stated proper hazardous waste management provides economic benefits and required less energy. According to the EPA, in 2014, the average household had 20 to 30 pounds of hazardous waste on hand at any one time and generated 100 pounds annually. Since May 24, 2014, 3 different city employees with Raytown stated they were city residents and wanted to see a program in place. One city employee said specifically he received at least a call once a week about disposal of chemical or hazardous wastes. In referring to both an area RE/MAX real estate agent and an environmental representative of Mark, twice it was noted the level and variety of city services is an attractive feature to prospective homebuyers. In 2013, a collection event in Lee Summit handled 655 cars with 35 tons of waste. 2013, Liberty, Missouri handled 577 cars with 30.2 tons of waste. Those counts equated to approximately 0.7% and 1% of the population, respectively. This again reiterates there is not an excuse not to have a program in place. To end this plea to the city and elected leaders, the notion of hazardous waste disposal as a luxury item in Raytown is a poor opinion, and I will continue to ask for expedience in providing this service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, would anyone else like to come forward and address the board on any subject? All right, we will move on then. In the interest of time and the category of communication from the mayor, the only thing I wanted to bring out was that our Shepherd Center here in the city, along with the other 3 Shepherd Centers in the metropolitan area, are being honored by the Mid-America Regional Council at a luncheon on June 13th for the many participating hours of those volunteers. And I think we're going to probably have close to 40 or 50 volunteers at that luncheon, and I'm excited that our Shepherd Center is being recognized as such. And it says a lot about the organization, but it talks mostly to the volunteerism that we have in our community, and I'm extremely proud of what we have and strong tradition of volunteerism in this community. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to recognition of those many volunteers within the Shepherd Center organization and every organization within the city of Raytown. Mahesh, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Bauer, Board of Aldermen. The only item I would like to cover during my report tonight has to do with the sanitary sewer project on 83rd Street, and I would ask Andy Knoll to give a brief update on the status of the project.
Thank you, Mahesh. We met with the contractor this morning to discuss the current progress on that project and what is to be expected in the next several weeks and basically the month of June. With the start of next week, they anticipate some major progress as they work on that final 400-foot, approximately 400 feet section of sanitary sewer improvement that they will be using a directional boring machine. However, that directional boring machine will be sitting right in the middle of 83rd Street, just to the west of the elementary school. So it will be there for about a week as they bore into the existing sanitary sewer line, go to the end of it, grab a hold of the new line and pull it back through. So that roadway will be completely closed for 1 block between Stark and Kentucky, where people will have to detour around there. So, but after that, that should be the end of the road closures along 83rd Street. And then also during the month of May, they've already started the restoration work with, today they started installing concrete curbing with the curb machine, and they'll continue that work through the end of the month when they anticipate having almost all of the restoration work completed and the roadway overlaid. So hopefully here by the end of the month, a lot of those inconveniences, hassles associated along that project will be completed, and hopefully everything can be a little more calm in that area and have all the improvements in place, and hopefully no more sewer backups in homes in that area. So, thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
That will conclude the report for tonight.
All right, very good. We'll move to committee reports. I'll start on my right. Mr. Green, anything to report?
Yes, as fire liaison, I'll report something of note. The fire department recently got a new health insurance provider, and it seems to increase the quality of coverage and give the employees more options, and taxpayers would like to know that it looks like it's going to diminish cost. So thought I'd mention that.
And we just went through our rebadging ceremony. We experienced that last week as well, so good job. Ms. Melson.
I did have a couple of things, and on the note of Shepherd Center of Raytown, as a current board member, I'd like to let everybody know that the 17th Annual Shepherd Center of Raytown Garden Tour and Lunch will be June 17th, and you can find information and tickets at Raytown Hy-Vee, Camps Flowers, and the Shepherd Center office at 7900 Blue Ridge Boulevard. And also, I wanted to, didn't get right in there when everybody was here, but congratulate that CERT class, because I think it's an awesome opportunity for the city of Raytown and something that I've been asking for years. And hopefully, I appreciate all the time that they took to attend the classes and become certified. It's an awesome opportunity and a lot of new involvement from people, and I think that's great. And I hope to get in the next class.
Very good. Ms. Emerson, anything?
No.
Okay. Mr. Ertz, anything?
Thank you. I talked to Kevin Bogie about the Super Splash. It is open. They are opening at 3 o'clock this week, not from lack of people driving up there. As I was there today, a lot of people wish they were open, but unfortunately, the Raytown School District is still in session and all the employees are in school. So, but they did have a great weekend. They said concessions on Sunday were like a $1,200 day. They thought that was excellent. I really encourage everybody to go by. Katie, who is running it this year, is a very dynamic person, making it a great, fun place to be. The place is painted up, spruced up. It looks nice, and really is a great time. So Super Splash hopefully is starting out on the right foot. And other than that, there'll be a police pension meeting, and one of us will be there. So, okay, thank you.
Ms. Emerson, back to you.
I just wanted to congratulate the Raytown Farmers Market. It opened on Thursday and again on Saturday, and it'll be open every Thursday from 2 to 7 and every Saturday from 8 to 1. And we have some very good vendors as the season growing comes along. There'll be lots and lots of good vegetables and fruits and other things for people to do. So it was a very, very good opening, I believe. Thanks.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Sales Tax Oversight Committee met on Tuesday, the 27th of May, and to review requested spending from the sales taxes. Those items were sent to our board with approval for recommendation. So if you have any specific questions, you can get with one of the members of the board, and they would be more than happy to answer those for you, or I could get the answers for you, certainly. Thank you.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Legislative Committee does not have a report today.
And Mr. Mock.
Okay, Council on the Aging will be meeting on the 19th in the Chamber Conference Room. And one other thing, I'd like to say congratulations to Chief Matt Mace of the Fire Department. He was part of the badging the other night. Another thing is, let's keep Raytown clean.
Good. Okay, anything else? We'll move on then to the study session. We've got the 2012-2013 audit report to discuss tonight. We'll bring forward the Cochran, Head, and Vick accounting firm, please. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. My name is Dave Cochran. I'm the managing member of the CPA firm of Cochran, Head, Vick & Company, and to my right is Michael Keenan. Mike's the senior manager on this engagement. First, I want to say good evening, Mayor, Board of Governors, and we're very pleased to be here tonight as the auditors for Raytown, Missouri. And first, I'd like to also thank the city administrator, your city finance director, I believe not here this evening with us, but he was here most of our engagement. We appreciate very much the help of the administrator, finance director, and the staff. There is a PowerPoint, and it's behind me, so I do have one in my hands that I can look at, so I won't have to be turning around all the time. The page 1 is just a little something about our firm. We've been around since 1975, serving the metropolitan area. Our peer review has always been the highest one can get, and we're proud of that. CPAs are audited, as so are governments. And our audit, we got as good as you get. I won't go through the memberships we are, but there are 3 members of our firm that are members of the GFOA Special Review Committee that determines or casts a vote rather for governmental entities that present their financial information to the Government Financial Officers Association to achieve an excellence in financial reporting. And so we do have an opportunity to see how other cities and governments throughout the United States and Canada handle their accounting work. Page 2, we were engaged to audit your basic financial statements, which is, I think all of you have had an opportunity to see these. Page 4, the scope of our responsibilities: conduct our audit according to generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. Plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance to financial statements are free of material misstatement. Report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance with laws and regulations. Page 5, the Auditing Standards Board, American Institute of CPAs, the governing body that controls in part how we go about our work, recommends that we communicate certain matters to the governing board. Those being illegal acts, none came to our attention as a result of our audit. There were a change in significant accounting policies. The city implemented Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 65, and in general, that statement provided for calling certain assets and certain liabilities by different names, and in some cases eliminating some past amounts that have been recorded on your financial statements. And as we get back throughout the engagement here, if you have questions about that, certainly we try to answer those questions for you. There were no disagreements with management. We did have certain delays in receiving certain audit schedules, and maybe that's understandable in connection with your finance director not being available at all times. We had full access to the books and records. Page 6 answers the 3 basic questions that we set out to provide answers to. Are the financial statements free of material misstatement? The answer is yes, they are. Our opinion on the financial statement is called a unqualified opinion. It's also quite often called a clean opinion or a good opinion. It's good as you got. Internal controls over financial reporting. We determined that there were significant problems, and there was a material weakness, and we'll again discuss that later in the presentation. In our opinion, the city complied in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulations that govern the operations of the city. Management letter comments, page 7. We contain suggestions for best practices, possible improvements in internal control that were noted in the conduct of our audit. Financial reporting, there's some material weakness. Had several issues with respect to cash reconciliations of certain receivables, capital assets, and several other adjustments to your books of account that the auditors had to make. And other comments that do not constitute material weaknesses were, we believe you should have a comprehensive accounting manual to provide help to those currently employed and guidance for those that replace anyone that's coming, that may be leaving. It's good to have something to follow. And then future accounting pronouncements are all included within the document called Required Communications. Cochran Ed Vick, again, appreciates the opportunity to serve the city of Raytown, Missouri. So if there's any questions, we'll attempt to present answers for them.
Any questions of these gentlemen? Mr. Ertz?
I don't see a copy of the MDA or the management analysis.
Management discussion and analysis?
Yes.
It should be on, beginning on page 3 of the financial statement.
This one?
The basic financial statements, the larger document.
Larger one? Okay.
Beginning on page 3 would be management's discussion and analysis.
Okay, that's, okay. I kept seeing your signature at the bottom of the other pages. I didn't realize that was in there on that one. I guess my question will probably be more for Mahesh than you, and or having looked through this audit, comparing us to many other years before, and I think I ask the same question every year: is the city going in the right direction? Did we improve through the course of the year? Are we better off due to the actions of our staff this year over last year, or did we regress? And if we did, tell us where we need to work. So, and that could be probably for him, since you are just the reporter.
It's going to sound better coming from you guys.
Yeah.
Well, in respect to your fund balances, your general fund balance increased $100,000 over the previous year.
Very good.
Your unrestricted fund balance was equal to 38% of your current expenditures, which is approximately 4 or 5 months of fund balance, which I think is pretty good compared to others. Your tax increment financing fund increased $72,000 over the prior year, and those funds are all restricted for use to pay the bonds related to the TIF project. As far as your other governmental funds, your sales tax funds, your park fund, in the aggregate, they increased $729,000 over the previous year. Again, those balances are restricted or assigned for specific purposes. If you look at your sewer fund, the net position increased $790,000 in total. But the more important part to look at, what's the spendable portion, would be the increase in unrestricted net position, which was an increase of $165,000.
Very good.
So when you're just looking at comparing fund balance to the previous year, in the aggregate, you had increases over 2012.
Good.
That's very good, and we have not had an increase in our sewer rate in 2 years also, so to hear the fund balance.
There was an increase in 2012 as well.
12, right, 13 and 14 did not.
The sewer fund.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Melson?
In looking through the required communications and management letter, I noticed that there were some areas that needed improvement that were listed. And I was wondering, because I don't remember as many of these in previous years. So by your statement earlier, have these been taken care of, or are they in process as on the, I think it was a manual and the different things that were needed?
I believe management had provided their response and action plan to correct those. Where they're at as of today, maybe Mahesh may be better able to answer that. I did speak with Christy, the accounting clerk, and she had informed me that the cash reconciliation process had moved from a monthly reconciliation to a daily, and they had almost already completed the May 31st bank reconciliation, which I think is a fabulous improvement over what's been done in the past, because there's been some delays, and as once you get behind in certain areas, it affects a lot of the financial reporting, and it's hard to catch up sometimes. Plus, you've had changes in personnel over the 3 years in the accounting clerk position, and you changed computer software programs during the year. All those are contributing factors to some of the issues that we've identified.
And is there also a contributing factor with the Gadsby number 65? Were there new requirements that we needed to meet?
There was just a change in financial reporting by the Government Accounting Standards Board that changed, for instance, the instead of called net assets, it's now called net position. That was really a change in Gadsby 63. Your bond issuance cost previously used to be an asset. Now they're no longer an asset, and they were removed from your books.
Okay.
So it was requirements that the Gadsby, Government Accounting Standards Board, required of all governmental entities that follow GAAP.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Van Buck.
I guess, actually, my question may be more for Mr. Sharma. And when the independent auditors report or from it, it appears that, as Ms. Melson said, that there are a number of problems and weaknesses that the accounting firm had recommended that we change or that we make changes to. And so I guess my question is, are we in the process of changing all of those things and correcting those weaknesses? How long will that take? And the other thing is the recommendation for the accounting manual. Is that something that's going to be made a priority?
Mayor Bauer and Board of Aldermen, if there is a question directed with the auditors, let's go ahead and have them respond first, and then I'll come back and respond to any other questions that you have.
You want to answer the Alderman's questions on, you're asking, Bill, what improvements have been made on those issues
Well,
that were raised?
They already addressed some of that. I guess my question is those things that have not been changed as of yet, and those weaknesses that we need to have concern about, and where we need to make those changes, how long is it going to do that? Are those things, I'm assuming all of those aren't things we can correct overnight. I'm assuming it may take a while to make some of those changes. And to produce this manual, for instance, I'm assuming will take some time to do that. Maybe you can answer that question for me.
Yeah, it will take some time. It's for an accounting manual, you first have to get your key financial policies and practices in place, but you have some of those payroll, for instance, purchasing. Then it's a matter of continuing to update those and keep them current. Again, so that's just something, as we said, is we recommend that every entity have. It helps with if you have staff turnover, unexcused or unexpected absences. But also, it also guides other city personnel in the accounting processes and policies that the city has adopted. So I think that's something that needs to be worked on. As far as the time frame, I think the sooner the better. It's something that can be built on, maybe do parts of it within the next year and then expand that the following year and have a goal possibly to have that within 12 to 18 months. And some of the other recommendations are just accounting recommendations for year-end closing processes that I think could be implemented throughout the year, and especially at year-end when a lot of adjustments are required to convert your books from a cash basis, if you will, to an accrual, an accounting basis for financial statement presentation.
Is the manual something you recommended previously when you
Yes.
did the audit for us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mahesh, anything you'd like to add on that subject, sir?
Let me start with saying that, yeah, there are some recommendations in this audit. There were similar recommendations in the past audit as well. And understand that those are recommendations. I think similar kind of recommendation could be made of audit of any other department for best management practice or having a policies and procedure in place so that everybody know what they need to do. And we certainly appreciate the recommendation, and in response to the management response to this audit, we have said we will be looking into implementing those. In terms of policy manual, we do have policies. What they're recommending is a comprehensive policy manual, which means you collect all those policies and put it in a single place. And again, it's a good recommendation, and we'll look forward to work towards that. And another thing I would say, audit reports are good reports that give us a recommendation as well as guidance and a path towards improvement. Those should not be looked upon as something, oh my God, it's a black eye or whatnot. Those are the comments, and as I said, our recommendation. But overall, when I look at this statement, I think it's a very nice, clean audit that you received. Accolade in terms of having a less revenue. And despite of that, our all funds have a net positive reflection on our fund reserves are improving. So when I look at it, I think it's a wonderful news. And as he mentioned, in spite of losing key finance personnel, the new software implementation, learning curve, and in spite of all that, there is accolade about what management has done. And I'll read, and again, there's nothing that I'm going to say tonight is not came out of this book. So let me just make it. Audit agency received full cooperation from management. I think that's what you want to hear. And encountered no difficulties in performing and completing our audit. No disagreements arose during the audit comments. Reflect recommendation in regard to city accounting, internal control, and financial reporting. So to answer Mr. Paddart's question, numerically speaking, yes, the city is in much better shape. But what does it mean? Practically, that's a different, do I have a concern about the city's long-term sustainability? I have said that so many times in the past. All right, assets exceed liabilities. That's a fundamental basic principle that our asset has more than the liabilities we do, numerically speaking. Total net position increased nearly $1 million compared to 2012. So again, when you're looking at audit comparing from last year, that's a much better position any city could be. The city is reporting positive balances in all three categories of net position for business type activities. The city saw an overall decrease in revenue in 2013 compared to 2012. However, governmental activities increased the city's net position by $191,644 compared to 2012. Again, it's a positive gain. The city increase in net position is attributable to the decrease in expense by $1.4 million compared to 2012 level. Admirable. In 2013, business type revenue were down $181,608 or 3%, while expense decreased by $908,388 or 18%. when compared to 2012. The decrease in expense is primarily due to cost-saving programs implemented by management. Saving expenses would have been more significant if not for treatment rate increase by Casey Water and Little Blue Valley Sewer District during the same period. In total, the business type activities experienced an increase in net position of $789,792. As of the end of current fiscal year, the city's governmental fund have combined fund balance of $16 million, which represent an increase of $901,000 over 2012 and marks the third straight years of increasing fund balance. So this is not the first time. We have been trying to make sure that we have a better position. The net position has increased in the sewer fund for 4 consecutive years. And as you mentioned, we have not increased the sewer rate in the last 3 years. Staff turnover creates an issue. But the 2 accountants we have currently working for us are one of the best employees we have had in a long time. The accounts have been reconciled as of May 2014, and we were reconciling the account on a daily basis now rather than on a monthly basis like we used to do in the past. So we are not going to fall behind like we did, and that is a great strategy that we have now implemented. That is one of your responses that I'm providing. Transitioning to a new software, as I mentioned, learning curve, but ultimately it will improve our efficiency, and we have already started seeing those. The reports that used to take months to generate, now we can do it with the click of pushing the button. Another thing in terms of, you look at it, was mentioned in the audit report, as folks are moving towards increased efficiency in household appliances, which uses less electricity and water, we will see a decrease in revenue. The city had rated refinancing in 2013, which had received S&P 500 rating, or S&P rating of A+. Healthy reserve funds, positive net position, fully funded plans, full payment to our debt. We are looking at some very positive signs in a landlocked community where there is no new growth. If I haven't answered any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Actually, you kind of beat me to the punch in what you had to say, because my next statement was going to be, you know, there's very few negative things here, and certainly we're going to ask about those things. But the vast majority of this report was very positive, positive for our city, and I want to thank you for the job you have done. Our finance director, I think, has done a great job for us, and I'm sorry to see that he's leaving. But certainly there's always room for improvement, and so when there are areas where, you know, as pointed out by the auditing firm, areas where we can make improvements, my assumption is that we're going to do those things, and that's really what I was asking about. So, thank you.
Mr. Azier.
Excuse me. Certainly your report is lengthy and very thorough. I do have a question for you, and it's just because I'm not an auditor and I've never actually observed someone do an audit. But what I'm wondering is that, you know, when you do your work, do you actually observe the record-keeping procedures of our city, and if our practices make it easy for you to observe income expenditures within departments and accounting for tax dollars? Or when you get here and using the technology, are we looking at tax dollars after they flow to the surface, if you know what I'm talking about, just large numbers? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I
Okay,
understand
let's see if I can say it in simple terms.
The question
Okay.
of, you want to say how we audit?
Well, in everyday terminology, we're spending money on a day-to-day basis, sometimes on large projects, sometimes just buying pencils and erasers. And so when you come to the city to do an audit, obviously we have to have a practice and procedures for ordering, spending, and paying the bills. So when you enter the building to do your audit, are you looking, what you see are things on a day-to-day basis, or do you walk in and you just get the total figure from each department on what they spent and maybe how they spent it?
As part of our audit, we evaluate the internal controls and the policies and procedures of the city, determining our testing to perform. And then we select various transactions and send outside confirmations to third party to help corroborate that evidence in order for us to make an opinion if your financial statements are free of material misstatement. So that's how we go about our auditing, and we look at individual transactions as well as total transactions and comparing those to budget, the previous year, other analytical procedures to help answer the question, are your financial statements free of material mistake?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Would add one thing that, through the course of the time I've spent on the diet, I've heard different terms used by different auditors, or, we've had more than one audit in the last 16 years. But one of the terms I've heard used in the past, and I didn't hear this time, is the term clean audit. Is that something that's obsolete, or how would that apply to this audit?
Well, I believe the term what was used, the actual professional term, was unqualified opinion, which we had said is commonly referred to as a clean opinion or a good opinion. That was mentioned in our presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of these gentlemen? I want to go back, Mahesh, to something you said early on, and I recall 8 years ago stepping into this office, and I recall financially we weren't able to keep our streets improved. The budget that we were supposed to be allocating wasn't being met. There were a number of shortcomings that were put on us. We were dealt the hand of finding a way to finish the Walmart project that had been agreed to prior to this administration and find ways for it to happen. And I remember at that point, one of the options that was being dealt us or being offered to us as a way to fund that project was putting a mortgage on City Hall. And I remember many of us up here fought that tooth and nail because it's something we never wanted to do, but it was the hand we dealt. This administration had to deal with how we take care of that. So things weren't so rosy back then. I think people really, it'd be an eye-opener if you really look at the books back then. So I want to commend you, sir, and your administration for what you've done. To hear the report, to hear the increase across the board in every single category, to know that we're trying to give our employees the increase they have coming to them and is due to them, and we're raising ourselves to that point. Yes, we had a number of shortcomings this year where we ended up we redid the police pension plan, and we ended up spending now $200,000 or $300,000 more for the next number of years to correct a problem that we had with that pension plan. But our officers have the best pension plan they could possibly get, comparable with any other city in this metropolitan area, and we provided them a benefit in doing that. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what you have done. Yes, I know there will be plenty of people out there who make a living and enjoy finding fault with, things such as this, but when you really look at the audit, it's a good audit. And I'm proud of what you've done as the administration. I'm proud of where you've taken us, sir, through the course of your city management. Anything else? Mr. Van Buskirk?
I do have one more statement, and just a reminder for people that your company is an independent auditing company, and you're going to get paid for your auditing work, whether you say good things about us or if you say bad things about us. So you have nothing to gain, one way or the other, and you are independent in the audit work you do. And I think people just need to be reminded of that. And I think we did get a good audit. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And all those people that want to cast stones come up and take a look at the information before you cast your stones, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kramer.
to just briefly add upon what Alderman Van Buskirk said about this being an independent audit, I would also remind people that this organization did represent themselves as having been audited, and it was a clean audit on their auditing practices. So to kind of go along with what the mayor said and Alderman Van Buskirk, to those that want to cast stones, they really need to look at what's in front of them.
Very good. Gentlemen, anything you'd like to add?
We appreciate the opportunity to serve the city of Raytown, and we thank you for inviting us this evening to go over the results of our engagement.
Thank you for your patience in our deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Mr.
evening.
Cochran. Appreciate it. All right, very good. Thank you. This time, we're going to move on with the legislative session. We have just the one item on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion before we vote on that? Call the vote, please. Ms. Melson and Mr.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Abstain.
Very good. Motion passes. Thank you. Move to item number 2, please.
a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with A&A Concrete Company for the 2014 concrete repair project in an amount not to exceed $125,000.
Mr. Knoll is our Director of Public Works. Do you or Mr. Hanson have anything to add, sir?
Yes, this is our annual concrete repair and replacement project. We are aiming most of this concrete work on the streets that will be paved, either a 2-inch overlay or the lightweight aggregate seal. There was a map attached. Within these 8 or 10 areas, there's going to be hundreds of smaller spots being worked on. We put this out to bid. We got 6 sealed bids, as it says. The company that did the work for us last year was again the low bidder. It was a very close bid, just by $980. We also asked for about a 10%, 10.5% extra for potential overruns. A lot of times in the field, when you get closer to look at the concrete needing to be fixed, you might have to go an extra 2 or 3 feet each way, do an extra piece of sidewalk, things like that, just to make it work. But this will be our first street maintenance project with a few more coming. Any questions?
Any questions of our city engineer, Jason Hanson? Mr. Van Buskirk.
Is the percentage for the overruns, is that about a standard percentage that we would always use on those types of projects?
Yeah, I believe around, it probably depends on the project, but the 10% we're asking, I think, is kind of typically what we look at. It probably more so at the street paving projects. Your overruns or underruns happen a lot quicker. With the concrete, we're able to see it coming a little better. But yeah, I think 10% we felt was kind of a good average to hit, just in case. Anything that's like a not to exceed, more or less. Anything extra, we would have to come back for approval.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Melson.
Well, I kind of had the same question on the request and the overruns. Is each time that can't be put into the engineer's estimate, an overrun kind of thing, or is that just something that's your bottom line, and then you just, like Jason said, you put that 10% on there in case you would need it, kind of thing?
Correct. We really don't want to artificially inflate quantities of what we originally thought was going to be there. An additional reason for the increase is the project proceeds fairly quickly. By the time that we know we're going to need to come back, the timing wouldn't work. We would either be outside of authorization, or we would have to, the contractor would have to leave and then come back and then complete the work after we had that authorization. This gives us the ability so that we don't run into those delays.
Right.
And as I said, we pay for every foot. And sometimes you get out there, you look at something, 3 months later you come back, some things have changed, you need to replace more. So that's really what this is intended, so that we can complete the project in a timely manner and complete it fairly for the contractor and for us as well.
And the 18,000 is not to exceed 18,000.
Correct. We're asking for authorization up to $125,000.
Right.
So this will give us authorization, $125,000. We've bid those unit prices with some assumed quantities. That price came in at $107,000.
Okay.
So all of those unit prices would apply to either additional sidewalk, additional curb, something of that nature.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Ertz.
With the condition that I see of curbs and sidewalks throughout the town, would you like 20 or 30 or 40% over? I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done out there. I completely understand the overrun because things do change. It's a pretty dynamic situation when you're dealing with the weather and all that also. This is just curbs and sidewalks on this one. I believe this doesn't count base repair or...
That's correct. It's just concrete items.
So
And you're
concrete
correct.
base repair is unknown until you get to your overlay project.
We perform all the base repairs ourselves
Okay, good.
in-house.
All right, that's right.
So we do those in-house because those are a very high dollar unit price. So that's where we can be very effective and cost competitive with contractors. So we perform all the in-house base repairs on asphalt street. And you're correct, concrete we could spend, you know, it sometimes boggles us that we're spending an eighth of our project allocations just on concrete. So we try to limit those. It could easily exceed half of our yearly expenses if we wanted to. So we're trying to be very judicious and just replace what we absolutely have to so we can focus more of the funds that are available to us on the actual surface that most people drive on.
I notice a lot of the sidewalk repair is coming from trees that were planted in the right-of-ways that have lifted up sidewalks to, there are now steps literally on those. I know those places are probably places you're concentrating on, but it seems to be a growing problem as the city ages and the trees age. Also, is there, when you put back sidewalks, you put them back, I imagine there's a standard width, and some of these sidewalks will go back wider, and also ADA ramps will be put in on any area that you
Yes,
redo.
we typically, if it's an existing 4-foot sidewalk, we'll put it back as 4 foot. If it's an existing 5 foot wide, then we'll put back 5.
Okay.
The handicap ramps, though, we do make them larger. They're more going to be a standard 5 foot wide ramp with the wings off to the side with the 2 foot by 4 foot ADA truncated dome plate. So the handicap ramps will grow, but the sidewalks themselves, if you're just patching, 10 feet of sidewalk, you don't really need to make it wider for that little 10-foot section.
Because you're not doing a whole section that would look
Yeah, typically
wrong to be-
these are all between maybe a one piece, 4 foot by 4 foot, or maybe 6 or 8 4-foot pieces, so it's, 24 to 30 foot long. That's about it.
And this is all replacing of existing, or you're not putting in new sidewalks necessarily?
Correct.
So this does not have 59th Street included in it? That's going to be a separate project?
Correct.
And
Yes, this is all repairing existing, sidewalks, ADA ramps, curb and gutter. And typically, it's like you said, it's the fixing those trip hazards or the ADA ramps that are more of a step than an actual ramp. We concentrate on those. Sometimes the sidewalks might be tilted a little, but they're not a trip hazard or not in the worst shape, so we'll kind of overlook those just so we can hit the more troublesome and more failed areas.
and this would also will be included this year, but not in this project, will be, I imagine, sidewalks along 83rd Street where the sewer project is. I imagine also on the, is the Blue Ridge Bike, does that get into the sidewalks also up there?
The sewer project has a lot of curb and gutter with a little bit of handicap ramps and a little bit of sidewalk, not very much.
Okay, because there wasn't existing, I guess, on that
Yeah.
side of the road, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't add a whole lot for sidewalks there. It would have drove the cost pretty high.
Okay.
But the other grant projects coming, the Blue Ridge Bike Lanes and the 59th Street sidewalks, the bike lane project will more or less be fixing the existing ramps, sidewalks, but the 59th Street sidewalk would be all new sidewalk.
Okay. So, and going back to, I believe, a couple of weeks ago also, I mean, when you would include the 900,000 that we're going to be spending on our roads this year, I believe is pretty close to, we're also spending a partial of that sewer to redo 83rd Street, which is probably another 300,000 or 400,000. The bike trail up there is probably about 300,000 or 400,000 also. We're going to be spending, knocking on $2 million's door this year in improvements to our city when it comes to, just roads in this town. Not to mention the new, everything else going on with fiber and gas mains and everything else in town. But there's a lot of money being invested in this town. It's great to see.
Yes.
So,
One thing I haven't mentioned is also 350 highway will be
sure.
overlaid for the entire length of the city as well. So that's a big
great.
investment by MoDOT. So there's
Right.
lots of roadway investment, not just by us, but also by MoDOT as well.
fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
We'll go to Mr. Kramer first.
Yeah, to kind of, and Alderman Urch asked some questions about the sidewalks that you've already answered, so I'm not going to bore you with asking them again. But to kind of go on what the mayor mentioned earlier, when we came onto this board, and he and I came on at the same time, and a couple others did as well, there was not any money in the budget to do anything with streets. And of course, what this administration's done, as well as the staff and working with the staff to lead the city in a different direction and really enhance the streets, sidewalks, and curbs. I remember getting on, when I got on this board, there were people that wanted curb repair done, and they were waiting 3 years before it got done, and 3 and 4 years. And so we've made great strides. Of course, Mr. Knoll has researched and looked at different alternatives rather than just grinding and overlaying and using the lightweight aggregate seal. I remember when you came to us on municipal committee about that. And so, everybody working together, I feel like there's been great improvement in this area over the last at least 7 years that I've been here. So with that in mind, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve item number 2. Into discussion, Mr. Van Buskirk.
How familiar are we with A&A? Is that one we used in the past?
Yes, we used them last year for the first time. And they did real well with this last year. Good quality product and very good to work with.
I was kind of intrigued by the discrepancy in bid prices here from their bid
To the double.
to the highest bid, which was over 3 times. That's amazing to me. Maybe you have an explanation for that, I don't know.
I know Freeman Concrete is fairly busy, and when a contractor is busy, sometimes instead of not submitting a bid at all, they'll just submit a really high bid, which was evident by when they read that bid out loud. Some people were actually laughing in the audience because they knew it was exceptionally high. So, but we feel really good about the prices where, 5 out of the 6 range from 107 to 139. That's much closer, but you're correct, at $231,000. That's, we'd be happy to do it for that kind of money. We'll go hire some people, I think is what that was, is that they're busy with plenty of other work, I think is what that tells you.
I said three times, but it's over 2 times, certainly. Thank you.
Mr. Mock.
Is there any rate contractors step forward? Any bid process here? I don't.
Not,
Possibly Terry Snelling, I recognize here.
no, I don't believe any were from Raytown.
None, huh?
We had 3 or 4 more pickup plans, but they did not submit bids, but they weren't Raytown contractors either.
Okay. With the change order last year, how much was that change order? Do you guys go back on that?
I think last year we asked for about the same amount, and I think we actually exceeded the initial authorization and came back and asked for additional amounts because we wanted to add some items along the way. So, yeah, last year we had quite a bit of changes to it because we identified more areas. We had some hopeful on some cost savings, but in total, we actually were under budget last year on our entire street maintenance program.
Okay. Hope we can
So,
stay that
but
way.
the concrete's always the one that has the most potential for cost overrun. That's why we always want to perform it first in the project, so if we need to make reductions in the overall program, in the other 2 programs, we can do that.
One last question. The strength of the concrete into our sidewalks, what is that strength?
It's the 4,000-pound granite
Okay.
mix.
City mix?
It's the Kansas City area granite mix.
Yeah.
Instead of the limestone. It's the specifically designed for the KC area.
Okay.
But it's,
That's why I
yeah, it's the
wanted to know if you had
4,000-pound
you had the
push
granite
bench.
mix. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I'm pleased with the grouping as well. I think that the grouping is what you look for, and it's very close to the engineer's estimate. So I think we did well. Too bad we didn't have some Raytown folks after it, but at the same time, we deal with what we've got. Anything else, Mr. Azier?
Now, Andy, does our Public Works Department actually engage in repair projects like curbs and sidewalks ourselves, or do we hire it all out?
We hire a vast majority of that out. We will on an occasion, especially if it's an ADA accessible ramp around a manhole that we were working on. But for the most part, we hire most of the concrete work out because we found that we're just not very competitive because we don't do it all the time. Therefore, it's just something that we're not very, you're better at it if you do it all the time, I guess is the best way to put it. And we don't do it all the time, so therefore we typically try to contract a vast majority, probably 95% or more of that out.
When we do a project, is this like a long track project, or is it spotty, like maybe part of one block, part of another block?
Oh, for in-house work?
Right. No, I mean for this particular project here.
Oh, this particular project, it follows along the roadways where we're performing lightweight aggregate or overlay. That's where we focus most of our concrete work at. So there could be some areas that could have some deteriorated concrete. However, if it's not severely deteriorated, we will wait to replace that concrete section until that roadway is either part of the lightweight aggregate seal coat program or part of an overlay program.
Thank you very much.
Very good. We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote, please.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Melson?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Item number 3, please.
A resolution authorizing and approving the expenditure of funds to the Wilson Group, Inc. related to City Hall boardroom renovations in an amount not to exceed $93,741.28.
Mr. Knoll, anything to add, sir?
Yes, this is a project we've discussed some. We originally had an architect help us on these projects to kind of work out what we can do, what we could possibly afford. Really, the goal of this particular project is to provide us more usable space in this room, provide some storage, and then also upgrade our video capabilities. And with upgrading of that is upgrading of the lighting, some of the ceiling work, and also providing some of the storage areas that are proposed in the back. We will maintain the, the painting in the back. We are going to not cover that up, not going to try to move it. Items there. This will also provide a permanent accessible ramp on the side so that in the past, we've had some people who had some short-term injuries that require the use of a temporary ramp to access the dais. I'll tell you that temporary ramp does not provide you much security. Actually, you don't really want to go up it if you don't have to, so we need to have a permanent ramp in that area. It'll also make our adjacent conference room more effective. It will remove the steps from that conference room. It will slightly shrink the dais so that it can accommodate 11 individuals and provide more space for seating. What else am I? We have went through the Sales Tax Oversight Committee, reviewed this project as well as the previous item, and they did recommend that it did meet the intent of the sales tax. I'm sure I'm missing a few things, but here to answer any questions that you may have.
Question, Mr. Knoll, Mr. Ertz.
This is such a long overdue project. I'm glad to see it come. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ertz has the motion, seconded by Mr. Kramer. Ms. Melson, you had a question?
Oh, yeah. This one I'm very excited to see on here. You have no idea, as one of those people with a hip-to-toe cast and having to be carried up here in a wheelchair. It wasn't fun. So I'm really excited to see there's going to be an ADA ramp. And you just said something about the seating capacity, because this will be smaller. So is the seating capacity in here going to change drastically with the I almost said sheds, with the additional storage space in here?
No. That's why we picked those back corners, because in those back corners, you notice there's not much seating that will be lost. And we'll be able to pull everybody almost all the way up to the current carpeting area.
Okay.
So instead of having to have everybody back 20 feet so that it doesn't interfere with the camera. It's not included in this particular project. We'll come before you again, but there will be a camera system that is a pan, tilt, and zoom that will be able to be controlled remotely, so we won't have to have a camera sitting in the middle. It'll have much better video clarity. Won't have to pan while that camera is actually active. So that'll also be part of it. But we need to get the audio-video storage area, because then we'll also remove the amplifiers and the part of the audio system that's on the dais. We'll be able to move it to the room. So if we need to make adjustments mid-meeting, you don't have to have somebody somewhat interfering or being obvious of what was going on, and be able to adjust those microphones on the fly. Because sometimes people are very close, speak very loud. Some people stand away, are soft. So you need to adjust for those things on the fly, and that'll give us the ability to do that as well. So.
Okay. Also, timeline on this project and the completion. I know that there will probably be some disruption to this room and being able to use that. Will you know that pretty soon, or once it gets going? Because I know, for example, like the Charter Commission meets in here, and they have set times that they're meeting and stuff, and so I know that that would have to be changed in advance to make sure that we had another place to meet and stuff like that. So is that something that y'all be working on as far as the timeline?
Yes, we will. Once it's awarded, we'll meet with the contractor and discuss those items and when they would like to start, and we'll discuss what is scheduled in here, items that we must work around. And quite honestly, that is one of the items that's advantage of this particular contracting scenario, is we pay by the unit price. So instead of a fixed amount that when you have an unanticipated meeting and you don't want to shut it down, so you have to ask them to stop and move along. There is no unexpected change orders with extenuating circumstances because they had to stop and start again. So
Right. Because that's also, with the chamber, with our meetings.
Correct.
We've got different count,
Right, and you got court as well. So yeah, there's all those items that we have to work around.
And so do you see this being completed by the end of the year, or?
Yes, I'm really hoping to get it done by the end of the fiscal year.
Oh, good.
So by that October 31. Once we start, I'm hoping we can get it all done within a month, so that I don't want to have partial states of construction for that many meetings. I really want to start it, get it done,
Right.
and move from there, and it's in the best interest of the contractor as well, so.
Right. Well, I'm very excited about it, and do we already have a motion?
Yes, we do.
Oh, darn it. Okay.
That's all right. You were a close second on that motion, by the way. Mr. Lightfoot.
Yes. I've got some questions on the bid. First one is, was there only one bid?
Yes, what we did is, this is a cooperative contract through, that we utilize in the contractors out of Greenwood, and it has set unit prices for those items.
And on this type of renovation, then the city's held by law to pay prevailing wages?
Yes.
Is that why the cost is so, it seems extremely high to me.
That's a big part of it, is it prevailing wages on everything. Any publicly owned piece of property, if you make improvements to it of any nature, you have to pay prevailing wage. So just about anything we do is prevailing wage rates. So that's about 20% of the price.
You know, I know some of this stuff definitely needs to be done, and maybe all of it, I don't know, but it just seems like there's a lot of expense here. For instance, on the electrical or the lighting, you were citing the lighting.
Yes.
You know, the lighting alone's about $10,000 for the lights.
Correct. Those are the lighting fixtures are specifically selected by the consultant because they will help with the video so that you can illuminate the board members without providing glare to the camera. So those are an upper end fixture, I guess is a way to put it. So those are not the most economical, but they will help with that video the most, so we can have a clear presentation on the video.
And I was curious, when we talk about changing the entrance, I believe, to this door here.
Correct.
And removing the stairs and changing that up. So is that specifically just because of the, you know, if someone were to be on crutches? Or I'm not sure why that whole change up there.
One, that'll help with the utilization of the conference room on the other side. When you remove those steps from that conference room, it'll make that room much more usable. There's actually times where people have kind of stumbled over those stairs, and I'm really concerned that if we could remove them in their entirety, it's a hazard removed. And then I think it would also make it more useful as a meeting room for the board. If you wanted to go in to have a meeting beforehand or after the meeting, it would just be that much more simplistic to go into that meeting room without. And then if somebody wants to enter from that section, you won't actually be in the camera view at that particular point as well.
I see. Well, I don't mean to, you know, sound like I'm against renovation. It's just the expense is so high. And it seems to me like, you know, paint and carpet and some new chairs would go a long way compared to everything we're asking for, but I'll defer to the next person's questioning.
Okay.
Mr. Green.
I assume that's me, but we'll roll with that. But anyway.
Mr. Jason Green.
Thank you. I too share some of Alderman Lightfoot's concern about the cost of this. I guess personally for me, I'd like to see something a little more limited in scope. I mean, obviously, I do agree. There's some changes that need to be made. This down here, I think, looks awful, to be quite honest. But I think that if this resolution, and I'm not going to discuss the next resolution, but if these two together, I mean, we're about almost $180,000 in cost here. I think that City Hall is sending a message that this is going to be City Hall for the foreseen future. At least that's the perception I take from this. So that's something just as a point of consideration, I suppose, when I look at all this. But I just wanted to make that point across, and Alderman Lightfoot asked him the same questions I had, so I will defer to the next individual.
Mr. Josh Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of going on the same, I guess, thought process as the previous two aldermen. There are several things that I see can happen with this boardroom. carpet needs redone. An ADA ramp would be great. But again, I share the same concern with the price tag associated with it. And I simply put, I don't know when, I don't know if myself, with my vote at least, can justify the price tag when there are other things that money can be going to necessarily. That's just my thought process on this.
Ms. Melson?
I was going to say that, you know, in looking at this, it is a great deal of money, but it is something I think is well spent, and it's not just being spent on the 11 of us here at the dais today, but there's also court that meets in here, we have commissions that meet in here, we have other different groups and stuff. So especially, I can't tell you how many people have fallen off that stair thing over there that should have been removed a long time ago. Again, I've seen people, you know, falling in the conference room there. I think it's time. I know years ago we were going to do some renovations and different things here, and then if you move something, you have to go to ADA compliance, and then there's more cost involved, and it was like, no, someday we'll move or whatever. Well, I've been here 15 years and we haven't moved, and I think it's time that we really look at this room and make it functional and kind of bring it up to standards to where it needs to be.
Mr. Azier?
First of all, when I think back about 10 years ago, we spent $60,000 on that door on the east side, which was a lot of money 10 years ago. So I think we're getting a big bang for our bucks when we look at the total, what we're accomplishing. I do have a couple questions. I think you mentioned the acoustics or PA system. Would you address that a little
Yes.
detail?
That is a concern that, as long as with the video, is the audio. Sometimes people can't hear on when they're watching video at home because if the audio system does not pick up your voice, it does not get broadcast. So they see somebody talking, their mouth is moving, but they don't hear anything, where sometimes the rest of the board members can hear that. So we will be replacing there's actually a receiver in those microphones, so those will be updated. But it'll also give us room so that currently the audio system is on each end of the dais. We'll be able to take that equipment, move it to the audio video room, so that when there is somebody who is speaking softly or somebody who's speaking so loudly that there's a lot of feedback, we'll be able to adjust the volume, and then also the ability, excuse me, the ability of that microphone to pick up what's being discussed at that particular point.
Okay, I guess I would suggest, because I know there have been times in the past that we have set tables up in the center area and televised it, and there have not been microphones available to use in such a meeting type room. Is that something that could be addressed?
It would take some more research on my part to find out what might be available.
I would just suggest that if we're going to be doing this, and we're really truly concerned about better acoustics, because like I said, we have done this over the years, had meetings out there, and there have not been a microphone available, but it has been televised. So I would mention that. Secondly, the storage area. I mean, I'm trying to imagine what you're going to do for storage that would not change the aesthetics of the room. Like, I mean, this is not the most glamorous room, but it's actually not bad at all. It's I wouldn't call it attractive, but I think it's very well served. It looks good. So what will you be doing or building that won't take away from how this room looks? Like, if you're putting storage cabinets over there, it's going to take away from the painting. Right now, it stands out.
Right. What will happen is the wall will extend from the column that is adjacent to the painting. It'll come out basically in line with the doors at this point on the east and west side, and it'll be a duplicate on each side. So it'll be more of a rectangle in front of the actual painting, the mural at this point. On the west side is where I would envision where we would store tables and chairs and some other items that simply don't have a spot for at this current time. And then the room that would be created on the east end is where we would put the audio and the video controls.
So what you build will be between the first two columns, but not between the two columns that are next to the painting?
Correct. The columns that are to the right and far left, that's where the wall would start. It'd come out about that 15, 20 feet and then turn each direction and terminate into those columns that are right by the entry and exit double doors. There's I believe it's the second, there's two drawings, and on the second drawing it does a better job of describing how those, what I refer to as storage closets, would fit in there.
Okay, that would be a concern. I'd at least like to make it, I mean, if you can't see the painting very well, I would, well, why save it, so.
I think from the board's perspective and other people, there's going to be some angles where you won't be able to see it really well, but I hate to cover it up, and I think if I tried to move it, it would get destroyed or damaged to the point where I couldn't get repaired. That's something I am not adept at repairing paintings.
Right, you consider that the only alternative for creating storage is to put it in this room?
Originally, we looked at just covering the back that would have covered the mural, but I really didn't. I thought there would be a lot of opposition to covering it. Everybody's opinion aside, you may not like how it looks, but I think it's fairly well done, and it's stood the test of time this far, and it's still, when you look at it very closely, just the level of detail is pretty impressive. So I just didn't want to cover it up where nobody would ever be able to see it again. So wanted to try to preserve some of that, the history that is here.
So we're going to save some of it?
No, it will not be covered up at all.
Okay, all right.
Okay, because the construction plan that's in here shows that getting covered up. So I want to make certain, my own preference is I want to make certain that mural stays, because that's history of the city of Raytown. I think it says a lot about who we are, where we've come from. There's also some coolest acoustics that come. Normally you can hear John Benson talking back there up here without a microphone. So
I know.
It's what's happening back in that area. So I want to see that mural stay, because it's a history of Raytown. And that's different than what's shown in the construction plan.
If you actually go to that, the first one is for the lighting only, where it's highlighted, it says install only the RF8 fixtures. Then the second drawing, where it is...
Construction plan 04 is what I'm talking about.
No, that's actually for the next item.
No, this shows this shows a wall going across the back.
Construction plan 04. The two that I'm referring to at the bottom, they say boardroom renovations, and they have a date of 4/21/14. I believe the drawings you're looking at are actually for the bathroom renovations.
Okay, I like that much better.
Okay, great. So, you walk in the door, the painting will be obscured from your immediate view, but you'll still be able to view it.
The other thing I want to point out is that, I see this building as the people's building. The citizens of Raytown own this building, they pay for it. I think as stewards, we are responsible for maintenance of this building. I know myself, I've wanted to redo something in this room for probably the last 8 years. And I'm glad that we've been saving money a little bit at a time. We're not just, doing this instead of paying employees. We've been saving money along the way. So I'm glad that we're finally doing it. I will tell, somebody mentioned earlier that, how long will we be in this building? And Mr. Green, I appreciate your comment on that. My own selfish motivation is that this will someday be the public safety building and not City Hall. So I'm hoping that this doesn't lock us into being here, that we look for bigger and better things. But I'm excited that it's finally happening. Yes, almost $45,000 of this is due to the wage scale that we pay, but that's where we are, and that's the hand dealt us. And the city has made a commitment to live up to that, the wage rate, and I hope all the unions are listening to that we support that. So I'm excited. I hope that the aldermen will approve this measure and we can get forward with enhancing and improving the citizens' building here. It is theirs. We're responsible for maintaining it and keeping it presentable. Mr. Mock.
When was the last time this room was renovated, or has it been renovated ever?
I don't know that it has been renovated other than the adding of the acoustical panels behind the Board of Aldermen. I don't, I am not aware of any.
Okay. Next question. How many square feet's in here?
Square feet. Ooh.
Come.
Somebody
Because from what I'm
ceiling
looking
tiles.
at, we're going to take out quite a bit of square feet. And I know our court has quite a few people that show up on Monday and Wednesday nights.
Correct.
And I've seen it packed in here.
Right. That's why when we're shortening the dais, we'll be able to actually move, that carpet line will actually.
I approximately shortened it about 4 foot.
Correct. I think you'll get another row of chairs.
And we're adding, from what I'm looking at, storage closets, quite a few, it's quite a bit, a little bit more square footage on these storage closets.
Right, and that's why I'm saying, now, look at the corner and find out the number of chairs that actually go away. That's what we did. We lost about 8 in each corner, and then if you can get simply one more row up front, you'll actually have the same amount or possibly even a little bit more seating. Because those arched areas currently have the tables in them and then extra chairs are stored there. It's just that circular area is not as efficient for chair placement as a straight line, additional straight line of chairs is.
Just looking at this here, it just seems a lot, I'm going to say it's smaller. I don't know, have they come back with the square footage to this thing to find out, or how much?
Oh, I was in here with the contractor when we had all the chairs set up, and we counted the number of chairs that would be taken out for the storage areas, and then if simply one more row, put all those chairs back.
This door, speaking of doors, somebody had mentioned the 2 double doors that go
Yes.
to the outside over here. I see those aren't on there. I've always noticed this. I don't know why, but I've always seen about at least a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch gap on this door over here for the last 5 years.
Correct.
And, see that daylight, and it just,
Currently, what we do is
throw that in there.
we fill it in with a foam backer rod, and we do have to replace it every 6 months or so, but it's been effective, and those doors get opened so infrequently. That's worked for us so far.
On the contractor itself, how'd that go? How'd they go about, finding this contractor, and was there any other contractor that, you guys thought about looking at, or how'd you guys go about possibly being able to hire this contracting company?
What I was trying to find was a contract that had some unit prices and was cooperatively bid, so everybody had the opportunity some point in the past. This is actually through Wilson and Company will be performing the work they are a subcontractor to the prime contractor Gordian Group. Gordian Group bid on this particular project, and then they go out and they seek out subs who are willing to do it for the unit prices that they were able to, that they bid on that project. So and they're trying to find people who have experience with government projects, cities, that they know how to operate in those areas. The Wilson Group has worked for Clay County. They've also done a lot of work for the GSA department, so they're very familiar with government contracting requirements, the documents that they must keep. So after looking at all of those and the fact that it has been bid, so it does meet our purchasing policy. So that's why I decided I think this would be the best without having to recreate a bidding process that would be quite onerous to come up with all the units that are included in this contract.
It baffles me on that. But, so basically not putting it out for rebid with other contractors, you know, I mean, I just feel a lot more comfortable with putting it out to bid, you know. I don't, you know, just,
I don't, because I'm really afraid of who we might get. They wouldn't be flexible with the work that would be required, may not, because frankly, I have a lot of trouble finding contractors who are willing and comfortable with the prevailing wage requirements, just to do a simple move a wall 5 or 6 feet. It's difficult to find people who will come in and give you a quote, and they vary widely. So what we've had in the past has been difficult and very time consuming trying to find a contractor who's willing to do all those items and then coordinate the electrician and the drywall guy, carpet layers.
no, I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. From looking at the price of the renovation of it and everything else like that, I'm sort of shocked myself with the materials I've seen. I'm going, and with the prevailing wage and everything else, I just can't get over this. I wish we'd had a little bit more information on this before it came to us, but we don't. Especially with the other contractors. I'd like to see other contractors bidding on this, but, and another thing is, do we really need to do all of this? And that's what I'm looking at too, so.
Mr. Mock, I want to remind you that we continue to have storage needs in this building. We just took away from the engineering department to add storage for the court. The police need storage. Everybody needs building storage. It's something we always have needed. So I want to be careful that we're not talking about that too much. If you ask for more information, we can surely get you that. I respect that. Wish, you know, maybe that had been asked before this meeting so we can get our vote in tonight, which I hope we still have. The other thing, though, is if we go back, if we put this on the streets again, there will be a cost associated with rebidding it. There'll be some design documents that need to be done, so there's added costs that'll be thrown into this for design documents to be redone, for it to be rebid, and don't forget those costs are associated with this also. So just don't forget that would be there. And this room needs to be done. It's antiquated. It doesn't meet ADA. You talk about the door there. Yeah, it needs to be done and done properly. We need to bring this building, the People's Building, up to today's standards, not of the late 60s.
Well, I'm suggesting, I just don't think all of it needs to be done, you know.
What would you like to not do, sir?
Huh?
What would you like to not do?
Well, first off, the closets, for one thing. You know, I just don't see this room where it can still fit everybody that shows up in this room during the court night.
We just talked about losing 8 chairs. If you look at the room the way it's laid out right now.
I'm looking at the boardroom renovations at 42114 of the room itself.
All right, look at the room in front of you right now, sir.
I've seen the room in front of
There's
me.
maybe 8 chairs you're going to lose. And we're going to take up a whole new row out here, so I don't
What
see.
I'm looking at, the design of these storage closets there, maybe it doesn't look to scale to me for some reason, but it sure looks like it's taking up quite a bit of room. I mean, that's what I was asking, was the size.
I get that,
Hold
but if
on
you look at
just a second.
the pillars that have been, the columns that have been laid out for us here, and you take a look at the number of chairs in there, and perhaps we could ask staff to reduce the storage space, but let's don't miss an opportunity to get this building, the People's Building, up to where it needs to be, and to allow for our own departments to get the storage that they need, and for this room to look presentable. This is not the Raytown that we talk about. We talk about improvements to the city. Let's make it happen here in the People's Building as well.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Azier.
Well, I thoroughly agree that we need to address the room. That's not a question. I think most everything in front of us is very well designed. I do oppose making this room smaller. I'm not opposed to rethinking the storage space, but I don't like the design the way it is. I think it's too small, and for that reason, I can't support it.
Mr. Green, Mr. Josh Green.
Quick question. Are we, because I looked through this and I thought I heard somebody mention something about the chairs earlier. Does this include replacing the chairs for the public or not?
No, those are an additional $11,000.
Okay. I have to agree with the concerns of Mr. Mock on this, not only in terms of size of the room, as Mr. Azler said, but the way I look at it, like the mayor said, the citizens do own this building, but they also own this city, and I think that this needs to be a much smaller scope of renovation, at least to gain my support on this measure. And I think that in terms of capital improvement sales tax funds, I think that since the citizens own this city, that these funds can be allocated more effectively in other places. There are some aspects of this renovation that I do like. I think, like I said, I think an ADA ramp is necessary. I think that the carpeting does need to be replaced. That being said, anything that's going to reduce the size, square footage of the room, or with the costs associated with this right now, I also can't support this.
One of the objections I've heard is that the size of the storage unit is too large. You could also add a motion to this, or amendment to this motion, that would ask staff to reduce the size of the storage closets. I'm not feeling comfortable about where this vote's going to go tonight. I want to make sure that we're making a positive statement. So don't forget that's an option for us, Mr. Ertz.
Thank you. I believe this building was built in '75 or something like that, so we're looking at 40 years and for $160,000, $180,000. It is high time something has been done in this room. Where the wood paneling and literally the safety issues, the carpet trips. We don't even know why this step is here. Things have changed over time quite a bit. I look back in the back, it's nice to have the nice round room. I agree with that, but all we're doing is stacking tables and chairs back there. We're just using it's storage, whether there's a wall there or not. Do you want to look at the storage, stacked chairs, stacked tables, or do you want to have a wall there that covers that up? You're not gaining anything. You're not losing anything. So I'll go with the board on whatever they want to do on that, but don't think because you don't have closets there, we're not going to use it for storage. That's what it is right now as we sit here. So, you're not gaining room. I mean, I respect Mr. Mock's knowledge on building, and, I agree that when court's in here, a lot of these, it gets tight. That's going to be tight no matter what size we have. I think, you're not changing the use. I like the idea of, if you wanted to cut it back a little bit, round the corners off a little bit, make it look a little different, maybe that could be looked at, but this obviously doesn't look like the final design plans that we're looking at here, being that it's just red pencil lines and things, or maybe it is pretty close to it. Okay. It is pretty, but, there's a lot of things that I think would need to be looked at, but I like the idea of doing it in, granted, if we did this 10 years ago, it would have been a lot less expensive, and if we wait another 10 years to look at it again, it's going to be even more expensive. Things are not going to get less expensive, has been my take on things. I really appreciate the fact that we're leaving the murals up. I do like looking at those. I'd hope someday we could consider having maybe the school district, somebody paint another one, because we're definitely in need of they were both historic. I think at one time one was supposed to be modern. So things like that would look good. It would be a nice fresh for our court systems, for our consuls that use this, for the council on aging that use this. I think having this dais brought back to where, I guess at one time we thought we'd have 15 aldermen. I don't know why it's been that long for years, but that is kind of definitely a waste of, to me, more than 4 feet. I think that there's been some excellent thought put into this, and I can support this. I mean, I'm supporting it because if we do it now, we'll be less than it will be later when we come back. So, thank you.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Well, I do have a couple thoughts about it. Is there a possibility of, rather than squaring those storage spaces off, which they appear to be from what I'm seeing, that it maybe be rounded or some type of diagonal shape back from wall to wall?
Yeah, you could round that, the intersection of those two items off. The two walls where you could round those probably with maybe a 4-foot radius or maybe something a little bit larger than that. I don't think that would negatively impact the use of either of them. So that's something we could easily do.
I'm curious about the decision to drywall the ceiling here. Why
That's
is that?
for the lighting purposes. They said it would be better to have it drywall and painted than the wood item.
I like wood, but
I understand.
Mr. Mayor.
would that be possible to just paint that rather than drywall?
It would, I think at that point, then it would bring out all of you would definitely see the grain, you would see the individual pieces of the board. I don't know how well that would look.
So are you talking about an extremely light color if that's drywall and painted in that ceiling?
Yeah, it'll be a 1/4-inch piece of drywall that would go over the wood, so then it'll be a smooth ceiling is what it would be when it was done.
But there would be no improvements to the ceiling in the rest of the room?
Correct. I'd have to double check that. I can't remember. There was some. I think it was not a complete replacement of it, because that was an item to keep the cost down, is to not replace the entire ceiling grid. It was simply to clean it, move some of the vents around, and replace some of the tiles that have been damaged. So, but no, there was not a complete replacement of the ceiling grid in the rest of the area.
Ms. Melson brought up something earlier that reminded me of potential changes. She's talking about the Charter Commission. And, we could see changes in the makeup of the number of aldermen. There could be additions of aldermen at large. And if we reduce the size of this area, and that should happen, that would create a problem for us. So we don't know what's going to happen with that, where that's going, and what will transpire. And so those kinds of things are possibilities that we need to be thinking about. I'm not suggesting that happen. I'm just saying that could happen. Since there's already been a motion, I really would like to see this tabled at least until our next regular meeting, so there can be more discussion and maybe take a longer look at it. But we already have a motion and a second. So
You can offer another motion, sir.
can I offer a
Yes, sir.
motion to table this?
Yes, you can.
I would like to do so. I'd like to offer a motion to table this until our next regularly scheduled meeting. Do you feel that'll be a sufficient amount of, does everyone feel that'd be a sufficient amount of time to maybe look at making some changes to this?
Is there anything pressing? While we have a motion, I'm waiting for a second before I ask any more questions on that.
I'll second
We've
it.
got a motion and a second now. Is there anything pressing, Mahesh or Andy?
As far as we are concerned, there's nothing pressing.
Okay.
It would not hurt anybody's feeling if it goes until the next regular council meeting or indefinitely. This is something that we get request. We brought a plan to you. There is nothing free, everything cost. And yes, there was a gentleman that I went to visit with him, and he said, my goodness, your board is quite large in terms of number of people. Because the same gentleman has been to a number of other communities, which has bigger in size and lesser number of people. But that's what we got. And what's going to happen in the future, nobody can predict. So we do based on what current situation is given to us. If governing bodies support the plan that we presented, we'll move forward. If not, life goes on and we'll continue. So from a staff perspective, nothing is pressing. Nothing is, in our opinion, is critical that we got to move tonight. Yes, if it goes for a longer period of time, we may have to modify the term and go back to the architect again and look at the price, whether their contract with the corporation is still valid or not, but that's okay.
I feel it's the right thing to do, to be honest with you. I want this board to be more together on this decision. Unfortunately, this is a big decision for us, but it's one that is important to all of us and to the people. But I want this board to be more in favor of these types of things, and I want this to be right so that the board can get with it. So what I'm hearing is relook at storage, find a way to still keep the seating, and maybe it's it's paralleling that curvature with double doors that let you get in and out, something along that line. I don't agree with the concept of waiting to see what the Charter Commission does as far as the size of the dais. I think the handicap needs are essential. We got to get that done, but I'm completely for tabling this if that's the will of this board. But I don't want it to go on forever. I want to see it at the next meeting. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Azier, go ahead.
In agreement with the mayor, what I would like you to consider is not necessarily using that corner for storage, but it goes back to what one of the other aldermen said. This is really a long diet. We could shorten it, and you can even put storage if you shorten it on that side of the wall over there. I'm not for using this room for storage for anything other than what we already use it for, like bringing other equipment in. Right now, I know that we have AV equipment. I know that we have some chairs and a few tables. And to me, that's what the storage is for, nothing else. And so that's what we should be building for, what we have now. And I do think the possibility over there is another, or I'm not even opposed to moving the doors. The only people I've ever seen come through those doors was when Al Gore came to Raytown, and they had his entourage come in and leave through those doors. I've never seen anybody ever enter or exit through it. So I mean, it's a thought. But going back to what the mayor said, I think we need to, it's not just to spend the money for the sake of spending it. I'd say do it right, do a good job. Even if we have to add a little bit more to make it right, but look good and accommodate everything that we're doing now with it. Thank you.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Well, I just think it would be good to step back and take another look at it, and at least take a look at the storage and maybe reconfiguring that. I agree that we need renovations to the room. We need renovations to much of City Hall, and some of that's been accomplished in some areas already. But there are improvements we can make certainly here, and this is a whole of the people, and I think we need to provide something that is what's the word I'm looking for, Mr. Mayor? What would you like to use?
Could be aesthetically pleasing. It could be fiscally responsible. It could be any of that. So.
Thank you. And as far as any changes relating to, the number of aldermen, certainly if they choose to add aldermen at large, they can stand at the ends. That'll work. That's okay.
Nice. Mr. Kramer, is there anything you'd like to add, sir?
Well, thank you for finally noticing me.
Thank you for your patience, kind sir.
Yes, well, and I'm in agreement that, we need to look at some stuff. The whole Noah's Ark look in this room, as you're sitting up here.
We are discussing tabling the motion, correct?
I understand that.
Okay.
But however.
Not Noah's Ark.
I am in agreement with tabling it and looking at making sure that we're best stewards for what this room is. You know, but some of the talk about the flooring on the ceiling, and it comes to mind. I wonder if Lionel Richie was in this room, and that's where he came up with the song "Dancing on the Ceiling." So, yeah, it severely needs to be updated.
Wow.
I had to go there.
Tabling the motion is the topic,
I understand
not
that.
Lionel Richie, okay.
I understand that, but we do need to make it aesthetically pleasing. As I look out here, it's got the very vintage 1970s look, and so. But I would also remind you guys that Mr. Knoll oversaw doing our Public Works building that turned out very nicely. So I'll add that, and I'll support tabling it. Call for Lionel Richie in there, though.
Question's been called. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we automatically go to a vote on this, on whether or not we stop discussion, correct? Question's been called, so we automatically vote to stop discussion. All right, so the question's been called. I'm going to ask the clerk to call a vote on whether or not we cease discussion and move to a vote on
Mayor Bauer,
tabling. Mr. Ertz?
you're ceasing discussion on the tabling question.
That is correct. That's what I
Thank you.
just stated, sir. Thank you.
I want to make sure.
I'm glad.
Which
We
question?
want to all be clear on this. I appreciate it.
Motion was made by Kramer.
Who's the motion to cease discussion?
That was Mr. Van Buskirk, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes,
And the second?
I would second it.
We don't need a
That was the motion to table, I thought.
No. I believe I heard Mr. Van Buskirk call the question from my left, if I'm correct. Is that right, Bill?
Yes.
And then Ms. Emerson just seconded that motion. Question's been called to cease discussion on tabling the motion. So the vote would be a yes vote, ceases discussion. We go immediately to vote on tabling the discussion. Ready? Call the vote, please.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes,
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Melson,
No.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Motion passes to cease discussion and go right to a vote on tabling the discussion item to, was there a date certain on that, Bill?
Date certain of our next regular scheduled meeting, when would that be?
In June 17th, if that's quick enough, Andy. Okay. Andy's nodding yes.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
So, the motion we're going to vote on now is that of tabling this motion to a date certain of June 17th, 2014, for this to come back in front of us. Any discussion before we vote? Mr. Van Buskirk.
There can be no discussion, sir. We've moved to the question.
I certainly expected Mr. Azier to call me in line on that one, so I stand corrected. Thank you. Let's vote on this thing. Call the vote, please.
and I'm voting on, all right, just checking. Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
yes,
Alderman Melson,
No.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
No.
Alderman Jason Green,
Motion to table passes. We'll look forward to seeing this on June 17th. Good discussion. We'll move now to the next item, and I'll ask the clerk to perform the reading on item 4, please.
a resolution authorizing and approving the expenditure of funds to Wilson Group, Inc. related to City Hall bathroom renovations in an amount not to exceed $84,850.09.
Mr. Knoll, anything you'd like to add on this, sir?
This is for the renovation of the public and employee restrooms here at City Hall. We are asking for an additional contingency of $7,000 for this project, simply because we will have to most likely modify some of the plumbing once the wall is actually opened up between the between the two bathrooms. And I'm concerned that with that covered work, there will be some additional expense that we aren't able to quantify at this particular time. So that's why I'm requesting an additional, basically 10% for that particular item, because I will have to open up two walls. I'm not sure what I'm going to find behind there. Fairly concerned that I may have some framing that will have to be reworked because some of the toilets do move around quite a bit, which does concern me. I'm not sure if it's a structural issue, if it's just installed improperly, or some corrosion. So many questions I can't answer without tearing open the wall. This is according to the plans without any modifications to them for just the bathrooms. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Melson.
With this project, is it dependent upon, at any point, the project that we just tabled?
No, it is not. They're two completely
So they're
separate.
two completely
Correct.
separate?
We can complete them separately of each other.
Okay. Because I, too, am excited about having the bathrooms updated, as it is a trip back to the 70s each time you go in there. However, are you only doing like one set at a time? Because we have the employees and we have the public.
Correct.
So, because you have to have availability.
That is correct.
Because there's only one and the women's there.
Correct.
And again, any kind of timeline of when you think this might be completed? Again, you just said that there might be, you open up the wall and, oh my gosh, what are we going to do kind of thing. So,
What I'll do is I'll talk to the contractor, and when we come back to discuss the renovations in this particular room, I can have an update on what they think of in terms of time frame for that particular project.
okay. Another thing too is that I know that door is closed, and so when people have meetings in here, they can't get to the restroom. I mean, they can go through there sometimes if that's open. So if this one's under construction, how will that access, be available? And I'm pretty sure court people use that too. So,
Correct.
I mean, there's kind of those logistical matters too down the line to look at.
When they have court, those separating doors are almost always open because they utilize the adjacent conference room.
Oh, that's right.
So we can use some signage and temporary signage to direct people to what would be the employee bathroom. We'll simply take off the employee-only sign and go from there. So.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mock.
I can understand the restrooms on 7 I have a question real quick. The furnishings. Well, under the contract price proposal. Let me explain the furnishings.
Furnishings, $2,400.
Well,
Correct. Let me.
Are you talking about the grab bars, Steve, the
Yeah.
dispensers, or fixtures themselves?
Yeah, it's insulation of drainage pipes so that if somebody's in a wheelchair, they wouldn't burn their leg if they happen to be up underneath the sink. That's part of it. Type A T reducer, those are parts of, I think, the hang. Please, somebody's not for use where detail is available. A flush valve, that's plumbing. So it's really, let me find it. I'm in the plumbing, I'm sorry. Corian countertop, and then integral. Right, it's under 12 furnishings. It's a half-inch solid polyester Corian countertop, and then the integral sink basin for those items. So that's the total of the $2,400 for the furnishings.
over $20,000 bathroom, which they're in dire need.
Yes. Yeah, this is, we won't reutilize, very little of that are we going to reutilize. The doors will be repurposed the wooden doors that actually enter into the restroom, those will be repurposed. Other than that, very little inside of there will be repurposed because to remove all of the tile, you'll have to remove all the walls, a lot of the fixtures. If we can repurpose them, we will, but for right now, they're very little of those items are supposed to be reused.
Good question. Now, what size tile are they going to go back?
It's a 12 by 18. It's a large tile to minimize the number of grout lines, because that's really where the appearance of uncleanliness and just grime comes from. So they're very large tiles.
Ms. Melson?
Are we going with a different color scheme?
Yes.
Okay. I wondered, that aqua blue.
I really, I have to depend on the interior designer for that.
Yeah.
Picking colors is not my specialty, so.
Good choice.
In the past, depending on them, they always come through and it always looks good. So.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to accept.
You want a motion to approve item number 4, as I understand it, and seconded by Mr. Ertz. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? No further discussion. Ask the clerk to call the vote.
Alderman Melson,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Very good. We continue to make progress for the good of the citizens. Ask the clerk to perform the first reading, on item number 5, please.
an ordinance amending ordinance number 546513, which adopted the 2012 edition of the International Residential Code regulating and governing the construction, movement, repair, location, and demolition of detached 1- and 2-family dwellings and multiple single-family dwellings, townhouses, not more than 3 stories in height, with separate means of egress in the city of Raytown.
Mr. John Benson is our Director of Development and Public Affairs. Sir, anything to add?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Good evening, Board of Aldermen and Mayor. On July 16th of last year, the Board of Aldermen, or yourselves, approved ordinance number 5465-13, which adopted the 2012 International Residential Code, subject to certain amendments listed in the ordinance. These amendments in the ordinance included changes to Table R301.21, which included a provision that relates to whether a roof barrier underlayment, which is commonly referred to as an ice and water shield, would be required or not. And let me rephrase that, is required or not on 1- or 2-family homes or residential homes. This ordinance inadvertently indicated that this provision was not required in that table. Our recent recodification of the city's code found that there was an error, or brought that to our attention, that there was a discrepancy in that ordinance adopting that the International Residential Code with what had previously, or was in our city code, and found that they were not in sync with one another, which turned out to be a typographical error in the original ordinance that was adopted last year. Therefore, we're bringing this back with the recommendation that ordinance number 5465-13 be amended to require a roofing barrier underlayment, thereby correcting this typographical error. Also, staff is requesting a suspension of the rules on this adoption of this ordinance or proposed ordinance, as there are a number of homes in an area of Raytown that's recently had hail damage, and we've been issuing a large number of roofing permits that this directly impacts on those homes. Where, to give you an idea on the number of roofing permits, we're somewhere between 900 and 1,000 roofing permits that we've issued probably in the last 2 to 3 months. In regards to, and that's just in relation to that hailstorm that has occurred. So, and I know some of you were impacted by that. So, for that reason, we're requesting a suspension of the rules on this ordinance. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question, Mr. Benson. Mr. Azier?
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules.
Second.
You got a motion to suspend the rule and second by half of the board. Out of courtesy to my good friend, Mr. Mock, I'll give him the second on that. So at this time, I'll ask the clerk to perform the second reading on this bill, please. Whoops, wait a minute. We should probably vote on that first, shouldn't we?
I would love to do that.
Anybody want to get me on that first, Jim? Or? Okay. Any discussion on suspending the motion or suspension of the rules? Okay, ask clerk to call the vote on that suspension of the rules, please.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Nelson?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
At this time, I'll ask the clerk to perform the second reading on this bill, please.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 5465-13, which adopted the 2012 edition of the International Residential Code, regulating and governing the construction, movement, repair, location, and demolition of detached 1- and 2-family dwellings and multiple single-family dwellings, townhouses not more than 3 stories in height, with separate means of egress in the city of Raytown.
Mr. Benson, assuming that you have no further comments on this after the second reading, go straight to
I have no
Mr. Van
further.
Buskirk.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. As you stated earlier, we have had hundreds of roofs that have already been replaced or are in the process of being replaced or soon will be. And what effect, if any, has this had on those replacements?
Interpreting the code, staff has been requiring the ice barrier. And so the problem would be if you don't pass this and people take the position the ice barrier is not required. So that's why we're urging this adoption, so that the staff position previously done remains consistent, and for the good of the public health and safety, we have this requirement of the ice barrier clearly corrected in the chart.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Kramer's got the motion, second by Ms. Melson. Into discussion. No discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. No discussion. I'll ask the clerk to call a vote on this item.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Melson?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Very good. Unless there's no further actions before this board, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion's been made by the right side of the board, seconded by the left side of the board. Take your pick on that, Ms. Henry. Adrian Mock, okay. Very good. Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I thank this board for their deliberation tonight and making the right decisions for the right reasons.